Welcome back. I'm Sam Hedden, and we have an amazing panel today. We're talking to some amazing women who do different things in the film field, and I am so excited to introduce you to Gwenn, who we've had on previously, Now You Know, with Sam Hedden. We have Jessica, and we also have Lori. They all do different things, but there's crossovers, there's differences, and I think you're going to get a lot out of this about some women and in the film field. Thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it. The first question I have is maybe you could tell us a little bit about who you are. So since on my screen it goes Gwenn, Jessica, Lori, we'll start with Gwenn. Who are you and what do you do? Like, what's your main focus?
Okay. Well, hi. Gwenn Ruhoff, and my main focus in the film industry would be acting in short films, feature films. Lately I've done a lot of music videos. I have directed, produced, and written as well, but that is happens less. And I enjoy branching out and doing other things, but acting is my favorite.
Perfect. Jessica, on my screen, you are up next. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, I'm Jessica Mraz. And yeah, you're right. I do different things. In film, I'm strictly an actor. I did produce a short a few years ago called Devil's Night. Executive producer, not really set producer. It was a great film, and it reminded me a lot of my old neighborhood, and I loved the script, so I decided to help produce it. I thought it was really well done and had a great cast of actors from Minnesota. And yeah, I've been in a couple features, and I love being on set. I love the camaraderie that I have with the rest of the cast, but my favorite are features, feature films. And yeah, I've been really lucky in the roles that I've gotten. They've been exciting roles, and a few of them have been kind of villain roles, so that's been good. I also was in a short film a couple of years ago, and I'm waiting for a web series to come out, so that'll be great.
You also do voiceover work. Like, you do a ton of voiceover, like that's huge for you.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Voiceover is my main work. Yeah, I do a lot, commercials, corporate, specialized commercials, bilingual stuff, Spanish, English, English with Spanish accents, different accents and different ages. So sometimes I play very young. And then I've done probably like 100 audiobooks for kids, lots of books and the occasional poem. So it's been great.
That's fantastic. Lori, would you like to go next?
Hi, Sam. Hi, Jessica and Gwenn. Thank you so much for having me on your show. I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited and delighted to be with the other two ladies and you. You're all incredibly talented women who have made their mark in this field, so I'm honored that you included me. I do on camera mostly. I act in shorts and features and theater and commercials, and I do live TV. I also do your job, Sam. I do hosting and interviewing for live events. So I enjoy all of it. It gives me, I never get bored, I guess, with all of that. Plus, I've been trying my hand at behind the scenes things. I've done some casting lately and location scouting, and I have also done executive producing. So that's me.
Perfect. I guess the next big question is, it's not an industry that everybody thinks I'm going to do this one day. So what made you decide like, what was your moment where you were like, I'm going to be in the film industry, I'm going to do this? Like, what was that defining moment where you're like, this is what I want to do?
I have always been an actress. I have always wanted the attention. I've always, I like attention. I grew up the fifth out of six kids. So sometimes, you know, you had to get the attention, you know, you kind of make your mark. And, you know, but I really got into acting in high school when I was in theater productions, and we did traveling theater, and we would go to other schools and do the one act plays. I was fortunate enough to have a teacher that was a writer, and he wrote many one act plays that had been performed all over. And I was fortunate enough to be in some of his very first ones. So I'm like original cast in the script, and it's pretty cool. But we also did dinner theater through this theater productions through my high school. And I loved every second of it. It was, I got that attention that I had always been seeking, but I also was able to work as a team to create art. I was able to bring emotions out in other people. I was able to play other people. I was able to live lives that I would never be able to do in real life. And with my teacher, we had a one act play called Dolls. And it was about teen pregnancy. And we were able to educate as well. And I also am a special education paraprofessional. So that educating was kind of cool too. So I would say it was in high school that I really got the bug, but I am still a parent, and I raised my son, and I didn't get back into acting until about 8 years ago. Out of high school, I did some acting in college, some college classes, but I didn't go any further. And then about 9 years ago, I got back in. My son was out of the house. He could take care of himself. It was Gwenn time again. Gwenn got to be Gwenn and not just mom at the swim meet and mom at karate practice. And I auditioned for a few things, and I did a couple of commercials, and that got me into it. And then I met somebody through the commercials that got me into short films, and then the short films got me into feature films. And it's like who you know, networking and making friends and positive workplaces, and that's brought me to where I am today.
Perfect. Lori, since you're on screen number 2 now, we'll see where you started and what got you into film work.
Oh my goodness. I am much like Gwenn in that I started when I was a kid. I started modeling when I was 8, and I started being in productions and choirs. My undergraduate is in music, and so I was in every kind of music you could possibly imagine throughout school, throughout all my school. Musical theater, and musical theater got me into regular theater, and I did Model UN, so I was constantly in front of people, and that seemed to be home for me. I know, like, some people think that would just be the worst possible thing to happen to them, to have to stand in front of people and and give a speech. I remember speech class in high school. It was my dream class. I loved it. And you know that. And when you're not doing that, you feel like a fish out of water. When you're not performing, when you're not in front of people, when you're not under the lights, you feel bad. So I went through college, still performing, and then I'm modeling, and had a couple of agents here in the Twin Cities, and then I had kids. Wah wah wah. And Gwen just said, when you have kids, your life isn't yours. Basically, that's what I was hearing her say. And you don't get to pursue your dreams. I hope there are women listening, young women listening to this, because if that's what you want to pursue, if you have a child, I just don't see it happening for you. Isn't that sad to say? But it might be true unless you have a partner who is super supportive and is able to help you raise that child. Because the schedule for acting and film and modeling is, you never know from day to day, right? You don't know from day to day where you're going to be sometimes. Your agent texts you sometimes and says, hey, are you available for this? And if you say no, if they may not text you again. They might not text you for that particular thing again. You might have lost out on it. That's part of getting jobs. Boy, I'm getting into other subjects, tangents. But after my kids started getting old enough, and I taught them, please be independent and be able to raise yourself, or not raise yourself, but take care of yourself, cook for yourself, clean for yourself, and slowly get them so that they can fly away. I still have some at home. But I started building. As soon as they were able to start doing some of those things, I started building things for myself. And film, I just want to make an aside about film, and maybe we're coming to this, is that film isn't theater. It's a completely different skill. And we'll maybe get to this, but I had to have coaches, and they had to knock me down a few notches because with theater, you want to be as big as the room, as the stage will allow. And you want that person in that 700-person theater to see you. Whereas with film, I can raise my eyebrow or give you a little smirk, and you know exactly what I'm thinking. You know what's going on in my brain. So it took me about a year of coaching to get knocked down to that level.
I would have never, I mean, I know for a fact theater and film are very different. And it's always interesting when someone's transitioning and they haven't had coaching. So that's interesting that you mentioned that. Jessica, how about you? How did you get into the film work and voiceover work that you do?
Well, I could never seem to get the right coach or the right training until I moved back to Minnesota. I have been living in, well, let's start about what I wanted to do when I knew I wanted to get into it. I wanted to have my own talk show, and I used to talk about it all the time in high school. And I used to talk a lot in high school, I mean, I was always getting in trouble for talking too much. And I liked to imitate people. I like to notice people on the street, you know, like people that have something interesting to them. And then I would go home and I would imitate the person, and then a whole sketch would in my family. And I'm one of 9 children, and my dad and my brothers and sisters and I used to make up these different voices, and we would create stories about people we ran into, you know, and we would learn different accents. And I didn't realize that it was acting because everybody pretty much in my family, so I just thought it was just normal behavior. And it's not abnormal, but I didn't realize that it was acting. And I've always been acting, but not necessarily in films or anything, just in my daily life. I always found myself doing little sketches and creating stories and sharing them with people, whether they really wanted to hear them or not. I went to college and studied interpreting. So I was an interpreter for many years, and I loved working in the hospital. I loved interpreting for people. I loved that. academic side of me, Spanish interpreter, and I worked at a children's hospital. But in between the times with the patients, I would joke around and we would then do funny accents, all different types of Spanish accents, you know, people from Cuba, people from Spain, from Argentina, and we would entertain each other, all of us, because all the people that I worked with spoke Spanish. And so we would joke around and we would we would just make up these stories. And then sometimes the phone would ring, we would answer it, and, you know, I would do a Russian accent, you know, or something. And it was just, we would joke around. And I knew that I always wanted to get into voiceover, and I didn't know how to find the right training. And when I was living in Miami, first I had I guess she was an acting coach, but she ended up just being kind of a has-been that had like a little theater in her apartment. You know, she really knew anything about voiceover. She didn't have a microphone. The next woman that taught me was an Italian singer, and I speak Italian as well. So she kind of helped me, but it was more just, it just never really got me where I wanted to be with voiceover. And then when I came to Minnesota in 2016, well, I had been here for a while, and yes, I had a child in 2008. So by 2016, he was 8 years old. And I on this long trip in the summer, and I came back and I thought, I know I don't do interpreting anymore. And then I know that I want to get into voiceover. I have to. I absolutely have to. And the next day, ding, the phone rang. And it was this man, and he said, Italian translation? And I was like, oh God. You know, and he said sketchy, and he said, I have Italian recording. You can do it for me? And I'm calling from an agency in town. I was like, I know it's not a talent agency. Who is this guy? And he said, I said, well, who's the company? What's it for? Is it voiceover? And I thought, oh my God, this is my chance. And he said, oh, some company, Aveda, I don't know, cosmetics. And I said, oh, okay, great. I know Aveda. He said, my partner will give you. And they called, and I thought, I'm not going to talk to them. It's like some scam. I kept calling, and I picked up the phone, and they had me do a short little, I guess, an audition over the phone, and they tried to pay me a really low rate, and I held out, and I got what I wanted, and within 3 days, I was in there, and I went to a own recording studio in there, and I did it, and I some other Italian people, I don't know, that was how I got into voiceover, and the money that I got from that spot, and I invested it in training here. And I went, and after a month, I thought, oh, this is it. This is what I'm going to do now. And a few months later, I got with an agent at More Creative, and I started working really great. I would say that you can't go in with a plan and think, okay, I've got my headshots, I've got my agent, now I'm going to, start auditioning. Things fall in your lap, and things also get away from you that you think you had. You think you're going to be in, and then you get cut.
You've obviously all been on sets. You've worked with crews. You've worked with multiple people. As women, do you think that women are treated a little bit differently on set? Is that something that you've noticed? Is that something that maybe is something that you'd want to see changed or improved?
It's the same as women in any other field of employment. I don't feel that it's equal opportunity, and I don't think there's necessarily equal pay and equal respect. Now, I'm not saying that I feel like I'm disrespected all the time or anything like that, but I have had personal experiences where I know they wouldn't have treated a man the same way. It seems like there's less female leads, there's less female directors, and it's the times are changing, and we do have more women out there and more women dominating, more women in film, but we're still working, still feel like we're having to work harder to get to that point. It does not mean that I have not had some wonderful opportunities. I have, and I'm not saying that I've been treated wrong by everybody, but I have had that casting couch situation where I don't feel a man would have been in the same predicament. I remember there was a certain music video that I was doing that I tried out for. I didn't get the role. So, but I tried out for one role, and they said, why don't you try out for this other one? And I'm like, well, it was supposed to be an older, like in her 60s, you know, and but I'm like, okay, well, maybe, you know, sometimes they see something and they change their mind. They're like, hey, try this, and maybe, you know, you'd be good for that. I was like, okay. So I'm like, sure. And well, this woman was supposed to jump up and down and woohoo, woohoo. So I had the jump up and down. Okay, let's do this again. Jump up and down. And after a while, it was like, okay, this doesn't, this don't feel right, you know, kind of thing. And I was kind of glad that I didn't get the role, but I do not want to say don't get into the business, don't try it out like everybody is a Harvey Weinstein or something. No, I'm not saying that, please, please, please. But do I think that there are pros and cons, and or do I feel like women can be treated differently? Yes, I do.
I would piggyback off of some things that Gwenn said. And that is, there are fewer men in film, and there are more roles for them in film. And so where there could be, you know, 5 lead roles for men, and they're begging for men to come in and audition and send their tapes, and they will actually maybe incentivize them by saying, we'll pay you to come and take these roles. Whereas there might be 3 roles for women, and all 3 of them might be in a certain age range or whatever, but then they'll get 100 or 200 or 500, really so many women to compete for the same roles. And guess what? They don't have to pay them, because there is always some woman who will come along and take that role for free. They want that role on their reel, or they want to meet the casting team. Whereas the men, you know, they can pick and choose basically what roles they get. I would, since you're showing this to younger women, I would say that there are the vultures out there who will lure you in with one thing. And Gwenn also mentioned this, and it's a bait and switch. I've had big name producers from Los Angeles contact me and say, we have this family film. It's with kids. You would be, you know, a mom. And I was like, yes, let's do this thing. And then you get to the interview and he's describing a completely different role that mimics Sharon Stone. And then he sends you the script and it's even worse than he described. You know, so I can laugh about it because I said no. But there is that out there. What if he didn't describe it completely and I went out there and he had said, don't bring any of your friends with you. We want you to be alone. We want you to be here for a month and we want you to be here alone. And, you know, what if I went thinking that this is my chance? And he put me in some sort of really uncomfortable situation. That's very possible. And I feel like women might be treated not just in a sexist or sexy sort of situation, but maybe it's talked down to a little, like they're not quite as smart, or they're not quite as prepared, or they're not quite as well studied as men. Not sure what would give them that idea. I've had directors say, this is the way I want you to say the line, blah, 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 blah. I have a whole backstory. I have a whole, I've maybe consulted a coach. I've you know, set this character up in my mind as to who they are. And I've brought everything to this role that you asked for, and my own flavors, and to tell me how to say the line is just really degrading. Things like that.
Actually, that made me think of another question. So before we move on, Jessica, did you want to chime in with anything at all?
My experiences in film have, for the most part, been really positive. I don't want to always play, you know, things that I feel are kind of stereotypical of my looks. Flaky mafia wife, or you know, like those kinds of things like that. That is not, I like roles that make me vulnerable. I like roles where I could be powerful. And so I think on a smaller scale, I have had the opportunity to be in situations that I feel would be make me feel uncomfortable. And I didn't like the script. Either it was poorly written, and I thought that the role was something that I wouldn't want to be. I don't want to play that role. I have noticed it's not exciting to me. And I have played roles that I think the character is weak, right? That it's not a strong, beautiful character, but there's always a way in which the writer shows all the different layers of that person, right? So she can be a beautiful, strong person. She can be feminine. She's not just crass and, you know, humble and poor and sad, right? She also has these streaks in her, and that I think is good writing, and I think that rules. And I that there's a lot of talk lately in the film industry about gay, and how having a female on it that has power as an AD, as a director, they are going to look at things differently. And I am a firm believer in that men and women are very different. And it's not just, you know, their gender. It has to, we think differently, we do things differently, we are different. And that may not be a very popular opinion these days, but I believe that. And I believe that a woman on set in a position of power really lends a lot to not only how other women feel on set, but in how it's going to approach something. I noticed that in The Hunter. I felt incredibly supported. I felt respected. I felt honored. I felt celebrated on set. And Alexander P. Gutterman is a wonderful, wonderful director. And Nora Tarski-O'Brien is fantastic. And the two of them together are a great pair. And there were certain things that Nora did as assistant director that were wonderful, and little things that she did on set that made me feel incredibly at ease and just, I guess, in solidarity with everybody there. But I don't think that her not being there would have made me feel uncomfortable. It's not like I need a woman on the set because otherwise I'm not going to feel safe. No, not at all. Just different perspectives, and I think we need that. And I think sometimes when people are really young and they're getting into this field, they're so excited that they'll take any role, and they'll take roles without pay, and then they build a reputation of working for free. And I don't. All the work that I do is paid. And I am not saying that you shouldn't do collaborations or passion projects with you, but when others are being paid in the same film, everyone should be paid, and everyone should be compensated. And
yes.
Fairly. And so I think that, and I think that when you're doing a major production, when you're doing a film that is non-union, but you've big names in there, you still have to pay everybody in there. Those actors, 2 actors don't make a film. We're all important, we're all valuable. And if I'm good enough to be cast, and I'm trusted with your script, then I am worthy of being paid. And I think that that generates more paid work. And I approach voiceover the same way. I will not undercut the agents that are so diligently working for us, because they might rep you in a film too. It's not just on camera commercials and voiceover. So for all people that are younger and getting into it, into this, don't give yourself away. You know, it's okay to do the student films now, but get paid. And yeah, so that's my views on it. Thanks for asking.
See, I need you lovely ladies to tell me a little bit about how to find an agent, because I need to start getting paid.
I don't have an agent, Sam. I find everything on my own.
Oh,
So-
well, that's good to know too.
So, not like I'm not looking for one or trying, but I do not have one at this moment.
Well,
Wow, that shocks me. I didn't know that, Gwen.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. You like me. You really like
I do. You know I do. You know I do. But that really shocks me. Maybe it's your location in, I don't know.
Well, I'm not like constantly, sending my stuff to agencies because I am working. But I have sent stuff, and when I've talked to other friends about it, some have said, okay, you have the, Scandinavian skin and blonde hair, which is common in Minnesota. So they might already have somebody who fits your description. My age bracket, I missed saying this for the last question. I do think women are not represented to be able, I don't think they're allowed to age, and I don't think they're allowed to gain a little weight. Because, which is funny, is you have a couple in a film or on TV, right? And let's say they're both in their 40s, happily married. He's got a little bit of a gut, and she's still a yoga master, and and you go on audition for certain things, and it doesn't say certain descriptions ask for somebody who's fit or toned, or and I'm a curvy actress, so I'm not going to audition for Peloton, or I shouldn't do name brands, but I mean, I'm not gonna audition or try out for roles that I know that I physically do not match. But when you have a description saying 30 to 50-year-old Caucasian, or something, and it doesn't give a description, a physical, like I'm not going to be Tomb Raider, I'm not going to be something like that. If it doesn't, they should be auditioning and letting all women of all sizes, all races, all try out for these roles. I love the TV show American Housewife because she feels out of place moving to a town where they're all thin and fit, and she's not, and I can relate to her. It's nice to see somebody that I can relate to as well. And there's a lot of beautiful women, but we all come in all shapes and sizes, and it is getting better. We're seeing women in the music industry that are different sizes, and now we're seeing in modeling and commercials, and it's becoming more and more mainstream, but it has taken so long. And age-wise, it's okay if we have wrinkles, because we've lived a life. It's okay that we look real.
Yeah.
Coming from the blonde who dyes her hair, but it is okay for us to age. And if you have a couple and they grew together, a lot of times they might gain weight together because they're happy. They do things together. They go out to eat together. They do things together. If you have a fit couple, they usually stay fit together as well because they work out together and they do things. So I'd like to see, when you see like age enhancement, like in movies and stuff, and they always have, you know, I wouldn't mind if they actually showed them like gain, just not like go from thin to obese. There's a lot in between. But when they age, I would love to see them pack on 10 pounds or something, you know, or after they have a baby in a film, like her hips expand just a little bit, just a little more realism and diversity. Diversity to me doesn't just mean color. To me, it also means age, weight, you know, we're all beautiful women, all shapes and sizes, and I think we should be embracing it more.
I think that that's the perfect segue to the question that Lori brought up. There's a lot more women and a lot less men. There's not a ton of diversity, although it's getting better.
It is getting better.
That maybe we're going to see more improvements for transgender actors. Yes. Do you think that that's something that maybe people should consider more in their films? Is, yeah, you need a man, but what if there's a woman who's equally as good, who identifies as a male? Like, do you think that that's something that maybe we could improve on?
I think that I've noticed a lot on Actors Access. It'll say male or male identifying for roles. Right. And we should really be focusing on the type. If you're looking for a certain type, okay, and you want a certain look, that's fine. You know, if you want, I just think that we have to have a balance in what we're expecting of, not of casting, but of directors and of writers, that they don't, it's not discriminatory to have a very specific idea of the physicality of a person. It's okay. It's right. Okay if they want, you know, somebody who is 5 foot tall and has short black hair and a certain type of eyes. It's okay. They created that person. This isn't the same as applying for a job at a place you're being discriminated against on your looks. These are characters that we're playing. So I think then a little bit of a pendulum swing in the direction of, and I've seen it in posts where people are like, why are you you asking for people of color, or why aren't there any white? It's like these are the people that I've created in my mind. So in that way, I think that for us, we all need to be respectful of the characters that have been created. And yes, I'm happy to see that there are characters being created by writers and directors that are different from what we've seen for the last 50 years. Make sense? Because then we're really representing society, right? By creating characters. And does this make sense?
Right.
Different types of people. If we just have the token, black person in every film and the token Asian person and everybody else is white, that isn't reality. And those films don't seem real to me.
I'm glad I asked that question, because that wasn't on the original list of questions that I sent to you. It just kind of came up. Right. So now let's move on to a little bit more of a fun question. What was your favorite role? If you could pick one role, what was it that was your absolute favorite? If you could go back and play that character again, what character is it?
I have two favorites, if I can cheat a little on the question. A few years ago, I played a psychologist, and I really loved playing that role. I thought that it was really nice to be the kind of cool, collected, calm person that I'm not normally in everyday life. I loved how kind and friendly, and it was, for some reason, it was really easy to learn the lines. For me, they flowed. It was really good writing. that was in a film I was in a few years ago. And then I loved my role in The Hunter because it really challenged me to play that character. I was really stripped of any kind of physical mask that I could wear, you know. For a lot of the film, I really wasn't very well kept or glamorous looking, and I had to really let myself be seen.
Glad that there's at least, I'm glad 2 of them stood out, so that's perfect.
I love playing the sultry, dark, sexy roles. There's one, the Chairman is on Amazon Prime. You can find that. Gehenna, that was a blast, but also, and you can find that on YouTube. But I think my favorite was Riled Child. It was a goofy character. I was in a musical production at the time, and I was doing my makeup for a 70s character, like Farrah Fawcett-ish. And so I did it kind of halfway because I was filming this character in the morning and doing a musical production in the afternoon. And they were good. They got me in and out. But I got to be this goofy nut but she lives inside me. This goofy nut. And I would just love, they have another script for her. As some, you know, they've done another story for her. They just haven't pulled the trigger on it, but I would love to play her again. It would be so much fun.
I love the description of Farrah Fawcett hair, mostly because there is going to be a group of people watching this that may not have that knowledge of what Farrah Fawcett hair is, and they may have to go to the Google machine.
It was a 70s character, so that's who they gave us pictures of to emulate. Please make your hair look like this. And they sent us a picture of Farrah.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm sure you pulled it off lovely.
Hot rollers.
There you go. Gwen, what was one of your favorite roles?
I've done a lot of horror work where I've been demons and zombies and stuff like that. But my favorite role was Tally in The Journey. And The Journey was my passion project. And it's about the struggles of a woman who has breast cancer and the commitment of her husband and how they go through this together. I wrote this film after my mother died. My mother had lung cancer, but I chose breast cancer because I feel like more people could relate to it and it's easier to portray on screen. This character meant a lot to me because I would go to sit in the waiting room while my mom was getting radiation, and I would look around at the family members and the friends that were waiting in the waiting room, and I thought I wanted to do a story where cancer wasn't the main focus, but it was the relationship between the person with cancer and their caregiver, the person that's by their side and helping them get through this. So that film means a lot to me. I wrote, directed, produced, and starred in that film. And Tally will always have a special place in my heart.
That's must have been really hard. I mean, rewarding, but hard at the same time.
It was challenging to where it was my first film. I didn't have a lot of money. I didn't have a lot of experience directing. I didn't have the best sound equipment. I didn't have some of these things that moving forward, I know that you need to have the money for the good sound and the good lighting and the not good, great lighting, great sound, you know, things that I learned. But it was a passion project that in my heart, I had to get done. It had to be then. I was still raw, and I wanted to have that rawness and bring that to the film. It mattered. I had a very good friend who asked me if I would ever, if he gave me the money to redo it, would I redo it? I had a really hard time, but I said, I can't, because I don't think I'll ever be in that same place and ever just portray her the way I wanted to.
Yeah.
The lighting and some of the other things probably be better. Well, yeah, because sometimes, you know, you can get better equipment and better things when you have money. But Tally wouldn't be Tally if I portrayed her now compared to when I portrayed her right then, when I was still raw and emotional, and my mother had just, you know, passed not too long before that. And like I said, she'll always be my favorite, and she'll also be the one that's closest to my heart.
That's heavy. That's not a bad thing, but heavy. Which I know that all three of you have played roles that are dark, heavy. They can be hard to talk about. Like you said, raw, vulnerable. Those are some big words to use. So I've got two big questions left, and then we'll wrap it up. My first question is, do you have projects or a project that you can tell us about that you're working on? And the next question after that is, where can we find your reels? Do you have a website? Do you have a place that we can find a way to work with you? Because I know lots of people would love to work with you ladies.
Oh, I have a couple of projects. Because of COVID, I had a couple of projects that were supposed to happen last year that got pushed to this year. Some of them aren't happening because they were set to do it last year, and then money and other things just fell through. And these are the times that we're living in. Things are going to get better, but we had challenges in lots of people. Everybody was affected by COVID in some way. I started filming for a Kohlmeyer film, The Ballad of Travis Hunter. I play Patty, a barkeep, and she's spunky and she's Southern, and I get to use my Southern accent. And I'm looking forward to doing that. I have that coming. We're not sure when we're going to start on that, so get back to that yet. I have a horror thriller that's called Cat and Mouse, and we're filming in October. We were supposed to film October of last year, and so they just bumped it a year. I have next month I'm doing another Mark and Clark World Adventures, which is a Bob Cummings and Craig Muckler film. So I'm excited about that. I have next month I'm doing a web series that we were supposed to do last year, and so now my scene, my characters, we're going to do that next month. I have a couple of shorts that we started last year that we're going to look forward to hopefully getting done this year. I have a short that I'm doing with Sam. We have a project, and I have a couple of different projects with Ira Livingston that we're collaborating and working on. We just still with COVID, we don't have times, and you know, we're still working. We've had a lot of films where we've had some downtime where we've been writing and doing a lot of writing. So do we have things to maybe do in the future? Yeah, yes, but we're not to a point where we're not in production yet.
Let's see. I am filming in next month with production with Joey Mixis and CJ Renner. But I don't think I'm allowed to talk about that one, so I won't. The cinematics features are both coming out soon. Chaste and The Ballad of Travis Hunter. I think both of them. Cole is retooling Chaste, so we'll see if I make the cut. And Misplaced Trust is a short film by Cynthia Urich that is making its way around the country and winning awards. We actually won so I know, isn't that awesome? We've won awards for best acting ensemble, and she is going to be placing it on Roku streaming service. So that and I'm watching one of the short films that I did last fall on Sunday at Nathan Black's theater in Woodbury. He's just showing it to the cast and crew, so we get a sneak peek, and then that one is going to go around the country also.
Nice.
So if you want to find my reel or photos of me, you want to ogle me, you can go to my website at www.loriroovers, that's LORIROO, V as in Victor, ERS as in Sam.com.
Perfect. Thank you, Lori. All right.
You're welcome. Thank you, Sam. This has been so fun.
Go ahead, Jessica. It's your
I actually am doing a table read a week from today, I think. Yeah, a week from today. And I was approached for a lead role. Now, when we do a table read, I'm reading for the lead role. That doesn't mean that I'm going to get the lead, right? So I can't really talk that much about the feature, but it is a feature film that will be pitched. And that's part of the reason that we're all doing the table read. Oh, but it'll be fun. It'll be very fun to participate in that. And I guess if I could really do something that would be really dreamy, it would be to do some dubbing and some voiceover in a film. And I have done ADR for films that needed the voice, the dialogue deposited back in the film, but it would just be really a dream of mine to do some voice for film in which I'm not seeing it all and it's not ADR and like recovering the dialogue. And you can find out more about me if you're interested in voiceover. If you think that I might be somebody that you want to talk to about a role in your film, and I'm at jessicamraz.com, so it's MRAZ.com. And no, I'm not related to Mraz, but because everybody knows how to spell my last name, so I'm very excited. And yeah, that's it for me.
I do want to, when I was mentioning upcoming events, I focused mainly on ones that I have not worked on yet, but I do also have Chaste with these other lovely ladies. I actually do voiceover work in that, and I play Miranda Sparks with 3 X's. You have to listen for me in the film to understand her completely. And I also am in the web series The Hunter, and I'm excited for that as well. So I want to make sure and give out those shout outs as well, because I was kind of talking about what I have yet to do, but these projects are coming out and I am very excited for them as well. So I want to make sure to throw that out there. You can find me at Gwenn Ruhoff, RUHOFF.com. And I'm also on Twitter and Instagram. And I would love, for you to come check out my website. There's a photo gallery and my resume and video samples of my work.
Thank you for joining me. I really appreciate the 3 of you taking time out of your busy schedules to be a part of this panel. I think that you gave great advice. I think that we got some good insight. I think that hearing about your different experiences and your projects have been absolutely fantastic. So thank you. I really appreciate you guys being on here. Guys, gals. This has been Sam Hedden with producer Andy Watson. And now you know Gwen, Lori, and Jessica.